Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I am literally going to walk you through how to interpret your own thyroid markers. Something that I am very passionate about is to give you back your power when it comes to your own health. I think far too long we've been giving our power in only putting our trust in the medical system, which I am not here to bash the medical system. I have my own views about where it's broken, where it's actually really good. But I really think it's important for you to be able to understand what your lab markers are telling you so that you can take your own responsible action to support your body. Why are we talking about thyroid markers? Well, in my practice, I work predominantly with women, especially in the age ranges of 30 to 65 years old. And hypothyroidism or subclinical just means the beginning stages of low thyroid is something I see nearly almost every single case. Now, just to make it very clear, I am not here to diagnose anybody, not you, not my clients. My goal as a functional nutritionist is to make sure that we understand where in your body needs the most support so that you can feel better. With low thyroid, we are looking at things like fatigue, lots of fatigue, just feeling like you can't get going. Unexplained weight gain. When I say unexplained weight gain, I mean you are doing everything right. You are working out. You are eating healthy. You are drinking your water. You're doing your best to prioritize your sleep. You're doing the things that you know that you ought to or should be doing. And for some reason, you can't get rid of the muffin top, or you're noticing just overall more weight piling onto the body, including water retention. You're noticing that your hair is thinning potentially. Or every time you take a shower and you're washing your hair, you're afraid to wash your hair. You're afraid to brush your hair for fear that a big old chunk of hair starts coming out. Especially as we age, we have a lot of things that we start to get self-conscious about. The last thing we want as women is to have barely any hair left. Cold hands and feet. This is something that I have been battling for a very long time. I would just feel very, very cold, even in warm conditions. Or it could also be heat intolerance. Constipation. So if you're not having a daily bowel, that's a problem for many reasons. But that is an actual sign of low thyroid. Your thyroid is your master thermostat for your entire body. It is your number one protector and influencer of your metabolism. And metabolism goes far beyond can you lose weight or can you eat whatever you want and not gain weight. It has a lot to do with hair growth, with growth in general, with repair of the body, nail growth, with skin health. Your metabolism is the heart of your entire system. Dry skin is another one. I have battled dry skin over the years for many reasons, but as you age, you might notice drying skin. This can be related to the thyroid. It can also be related to a declining estrogen. Puffy face, or like that moon face. Some people call this cortisol face. Honestly, it's more related to the health of the thyroid, muscle weakness, or maybe you just feel like you can't, you don't have the power you used to in the gym if you have been an avid exerciser. Pain or stiffness in the joints or achiness, right, in the joints. Elevated blood cholesterol levels is another one. So I definitely know women who have had a very healthy lifestyle. And then in their mid 40s, early 50s, their LDL starts to escalate. And, they panic. They think, okay, no more eggs, no more red meat. But in reality, you have to look at the entire system. And while today we're only going to look at thyroid markers, as a practitioner, I don't look at one system in isolation. As a holistic, integrative, functional practitioner, I don't look at one system in isolation. We definitely look at all systems, but this would be like a 4-hour video if I tried to walk you through all that. So stay tuned. We'll probably walk through more systems outside of just the thyroid. But I find the thyroid is one of the most important ones that I want you to be aware of. Depression is another one. So just to finish the thought on the cholesterol before I go into depression, because of declining hypo or because of declining thyroid hormones, that can cause inflammation in the body, which is going to influence your LDL levels. Okay. LDL in isolation is not a good indicator of heart disease. Again, a lot of women start to freak out about this. You have to look at all systems, all patterns for heart disease. Again, we're not going to get into that today, but lower levels of thyroid hormones. Your thyroid, like I said, is your master thermostat. It's your master metabolism. The lower the metabolism or the more hyper metabolism. So again, there's low thyroid, there's hyperthyroidism, where it's too much thyroid hormone, right? You want to be kind of in between that sweet spot, but that is going to affect inflammation in the body, which is going to affect your LDL, which is a marker of inflammation in the body. And then, of course, depression. Again, think about metabolism. And not just metabolism in terms of weight gain, weight loss, but metabolism and how we metabolize throughout our body, hormones, neurotransmitters, these sort of things, right? So depression is linked to low neurotransmitters, low serotonin, low dopamine. It all is influenced by the thyroid. And so, although I never will say the thyroid is a root cause, because most of the time, what's causing low thyroid is not the thyroid itself. It's not like you have a faulty thyroid. It's usually two things. It's either the immune system, which is autoimmune thyroid, or it's another system. Generally, it's more metabolic related. So, blood sugar stress on the body that's causing influence on the thyroid. And stress could be environmental stress, it could be emotional stress, it could be trauma, it could be surgery, physical stress. That's a huge sweeping draw for what stress is, but it's generally not the root cause. But what I find is I love data as a practitioner, and I know a lot of my clients really love data too. You don't want to get stuck in the weeds with the data, but the data can help motivate you, inspire you, and also just give you some validation of why you feel like trash. And so thyroid markers are one of my favorite parts of the blood chemistry lab panel that I run on my clients. And gives so much insight to what may be going on inside of you and what system needs the most support early on, so that you can not get a quick fix, but so that you can start to feel relieved in your symptoms early on, especially in working with me, so that that intrinsic motivation picks up. So, common causes, we talked about stress, we talked about the immune system. Hormonal changes can also influence your thyroid hormones. Now, if you've seen the prior video that I did, not the one prior to this, probably a couple videos ago, if you go to my YouTube channel and look at and scroll, there's only a few there. For now, it's a young channel. I talked about the hormone hierarchy. And I talked about how estrogen is not the hormone you want to start balancing first. It's actually insulin. I actually gave a nice visual of a pyramid of the hormone hierarchy. And in that pyramid, the base of it was blood sugar. It's always going to be insulin. You always want to start with insulin first. This is something I do with my clients literally the first time we meet, is talk about the insulin influence with other hormones. But the second tier above that is your thyroid hormones. And then the third tier is your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, these ones. So your hormonal changes, so everything's kind of influences each other, but you can't really affect your estrogen hormones or your thyroid hormones in the moment. Like right now, I couldn't really affect them, but I could affect my blood sugar. I could affect insulin. I could influence it. So that's why we want to start with something that you have more control over moment to moment versus thyroid and your sex hormones. Hormones are slow to react, slow to change, slow to improve. This is why consistency matters. But hormonal changes, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause can definitely have an effect on the thyroid. Again, a bigger conversation that we won't get into necessarily in this conversation. Infections, leaky gut, inflammatory foods. These are all things that just put stress. You can kind of put it under the umbrella of stress. Thyroid surgery or treatment of hyperthyroidism, usually it's iodine treatments and these types of things, radioactive iodine, right? So anything where they're actually treating the thyroid can be stressful. In fact, on the thyroid. So, what is hypothyroidism? And then I'm going to jump into the lab markers, which I know that's why you're here. Hypothyroidism is when the thyroid is underactive and the gland is not producing enough thyroid hormones, which are T4 and T3. T3 is your most active thyroid hormone, but it's the less abundant. And T4 is your most abundant inactive thyroid hormone. Your thyroid is in that butterfly shaped gland organ in front of the throat. But most doctors are only talking to you or looking at TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. It's not actually a thyroid hormone. It is a pituitary generated hormone, which is at the base of the brainstem. And so it's like a negative feedback loop. TSH will tell the thyroid, make hormones. The thyroid will make T4, T3, and then T3 becomes inactive throughout the body, in the GI system, particularly, and in the liver, where it's converted to active. And then there's a feedback, right? The body will see, okay, how much T4, how much T3. If there's enough, it will signal back to the pituitary, shut it off. We have enough. And it's just always regulating. Your body is freaking incredible if you give it what it needs in order to operate effectively. It's kind of like a company, right? If too many people or too little people, too much work, right? Or too much work, not enough people, or too many people, not enough work, right? Like you want homeostasis happening in the body. And so when we have an imbalance in T3, T4, we often will start to see the TSH go up. This is what we usually see in practice. Clinically, we see more TSH elevated versus TSH under elevated unless the person is on some type of thyroid hormone therapy. But we're starting to see these patterns happen more and more. But the problem is your primary care doctors are likely only looking at TSH and maybe, if you're lucky, T4. But that doesn't tell the whole picture, and I'm going to get into the whole picture when I go over the lab results. So this can upset the normal balance of chemical reactions in the body, causing the variety of symptoms that we already talked about. Most women that come to me are dealing with unexplained weight gain. I never used to be this big. I hear that all the time. Or I'm doing everything right and I can't budge an inch all the time. Hair loss, sometimes cold hand, cold feet, aches and pains, definitely a lot more. Hair loss, I think I said that already for sure. And then potentially some digestive upset, bloating, constipation, or a combination of the two. So if that's you and you've been told your labs look normal, this is the point where we get excited because I'm going to walk you through the lab markers now. I'm also going to leave you with a list of the labs that you should be asking for with your doctor. In the show notes below, there's going to be a link to the lab guide. If you don't have access to it, I highly recommend you download it. It's free. It goes over not every single lab marker, but the majority of lab markers that every woman over 30, 40 years old should be tracking. And here's the key. In isolation, running your labs once every 6 years is better than not running at all, but you want to be more diligent about running your labs once minimum. I like to run my labs anywhere from 2 to 3 times a year. Maybe not the entire full Monty, but definitely 1 to 2 times a year, the entire panel that I call a comprehensive panel, and then a couple markers that I'm tracking, whether it's the lipid markers, vitamin D, blood sugar management markers, thyroid potentially. We might do things in isolation more than once or twice a year if we're tracking and seeing how the body's responding to treatment. So patterns matter is my point in bringing this up. We want to see, are we trending up? Are we trending down? Are we staying stable? Because what happens when I run labs for clients that haven't had labs, that have no prior history of labs or haven't ran labs in years, and something comes back elevated or low, it can cause some anxiety. I definitely have friends and practitioner friends out there that refuse to get their lab work done because they're scared. And I get it. Like every time I get my labs ran, even though I'm just kind of like, I run towards confrontation and I run towards like fear. I know, I guess I'm weird like that. But I am afraid to click the PDF and open it up at times too, because I'm like, what will I find? But you got to remember, and I heard this from a doctor and it stuck with me when my husband was going through treatment after his stroke and we were in the hospital for a good month. He was getting better, but every day I'd walk in, I wouldn't stay there. I would have kids, so I would stay at home with them, but I would go to the hospital every day. And I was afraid to walk in and hear, he's declining or whatever. I'm definitely a glass half empty human, unfortunately. But they would say sick people look sick. There's some controversy to this because I know that with autoimmunity or chronic pain, you don't look sick all the time. And so you can definitely get brushed off by the medical system or by family that there's nothing wrong with you. Like I have ulcerative colitis and I get brushed off all the time about my dietary choices or needs. So I get that sick people look sick, but not sick people, just because you don't look sick doesn't mean you're not. But she said it not for negativity. She said it to help me that if he's looking better, then he's getting better, right? So when you run your labs, you might be a little scared, but you also got to remember, like we go by labs are in isolation. I don't just run labs and create a protocol for a client based on their labs. Labs are a part of the puzzle. Qualitative meaning how you're feeling, the symptoms you're having, matters more. Your personal evidence matters more than scientific evidence, meaning whatever the research says. If you are noticing improvements or if you are noticing declines, but the research says opposing, it doesn't, I like personal evidence. You've been with you for the rest of your life. You know best, right? So I always try to explain that to clients. Number one. Number two is this is a moment in time. Also, lab markers can be skewed depending on supplements, depending on time of day, depending on if you were fasting long enough, depending on if you were hydrated. Um, dehydration can skew not so much thyroid markers, but other markers that we would see in the metabolic panel. So it's just important to keep that in mind. And this is why it's so important to not do these things in isolation. Like I want to teach you guys how to do this, but I've been training in this field for years, years, 6, 7 years. I'm always going in deeper and getting into more certifications, more training, more mentorship, because I'm obsessed with it. But also, I just want to know why. I want to know more about the human body, and I want to teach you that to as much of a degree as you want. But it's important to understand to work with somebody who sees you as a whole person who knows the nuances, and the nuances patterns matter. So, like I said, if you see a lab marker that's high or low and you start to get a little racy with the heart, remember you could have had a worse marker 6 months ago and it's actually getting better, right? Patterns are more important than a moment in time, but a moment in time is better than nothing, right? So enough yipper yapping. Let me share a example report. And I grade out the person's name. So, making sure we're being very cognizant here of confidentiality. Okay. This panel will have a lot more things in it than just thyroid. So try to just focus on the thyroid and not try to look at other things. This is how it typically comes. This is a LabCorp. A lot of people use LabCorp. I use LabCorp. There's definitely Quest out there. But personally, I try to use LabCorp as much as possible because it also can show like previous results and show you trends, which is really cool. So TSH, let's start there. I would say this is the marker that all doctors will run for the most part, and maybe this marker right here. And that's usually it, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. So TSH, your thyroid stimulating hormone released by the pituitary gland. And what it can tell you if this is high or low, it can tell you if you're dealing with potentially hypothyroidism, low thyroid, or hyperthyroidism, which is secondary. It could be secondary hypo or just hyper, meaning too much thyroid hormone. Generally, like I said, in practice, most, I would say 90+%, are dealing with low thyroid, not hyperthyroidism. Okay. So two things to remember here. Number one, so again, doctors would look at this and say, beautiful, love it, looks great, nothing's wrong with you. But you're feeling tired. You're not losing weight. Your hair's falling out, your skin feels dry, your nails are cracking, and you can't poop. Clearly something's still wrong. So you leave the doctor's office thinking you're freaking crazy, maybe with a antidepressant script in hand. And you start to think, okay, I guess it's Whole30. I guess it's 75 hard. I guess I just need to eat less and move more, right? Or maybe you consider the next supplement. or whatever TikTok or Instagram is promoting to you that day because it's watching every single Google search that you do. Here's the thing. These reference values here are complete bullshit. Um, they encompass healthy and unhealthy individuals and demographics. They do not encompass what's optimal. So, what's optimal for your TSH, meaning as a functional practitioner, again, I'm not here to diagnose you, but if I see this range is not within optimal, then that is a red flag to me that is validating to why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So optimal TSH is between 1 to 2. 1 to 2. Now, this is slightly elevated. In 2021, this number was in optimal range. So this person's presenting with unable to lose weight, fatigue, um, definitely some skin issues, dry skin, some bowel issues, bloating for sure. So, the fact that this is not in optimal range, it's not awful. It's not like a 4 or a 5. But again, if this was a 4, your doctor would still send you off on your way. They may say, let's wait and see at the very least. But because it's in the reference interval, and this interval might shift a little bit depending on where you are in the world, but it's for the most part in this area, they'll send you off and say you're fine. So this is why we don't just stop here, because this is just a hormone coming from the brain. It's not actually telling us the health of the thyroid. I'm not going to go through these right now with you. These are really important markers we still want to see, but I'm going to talk about just the top 4, TSH being one of them. Okay, T4 free is the one that I want to talk about next, right? So TSH, 1 to 2. Again, if you get the lab guide, these values are going to be in there, so you don't have to necessarily feverishly write this down. T4, free. This is your free T4 hormone. I like to see this functionally, optimally between 1.4 and 1.8. Okay, 1.4 and 1.8. This is on the lower side, okay? Lower side. So there's a couple reasons why this could be low. It could be low because your thyroid is needing some additional nutrients. Perhaps the nutrients that the thyroid needs are low. That doesn't mean you want to run out and go grab some supplements, because everything is connected here. Again, this is what the magic of working with a functional practitioner like me, someone who is masterful at connecting the systems in the body. So it A, makes sense, and B, you get a plan that's going to specifically focus on the root reason of why the thyroid is having trouble producing hormones. Typically, when I see T4 free on the lower end of optimal or suboptimal, under optimal, some may think, oh, I need hormones. Not necessarily. Okay, not necessarily. First step is understanding why the thyroid isn't producing enough. Like I mentioned, nutrients. So maybe supplementation, but honestly, if you're dealing with bloating or gas, or just any type of GI issues, heartburn, that is an indication for me that you're not breaking down your food properly. You're not utilizing the nutrients properly. That is a red flag. That is a light bulb, right? So not being able to break down food, not being able to utilize the nutrients that you are eating, assuming you're eating a healthy, whole foods, high variety diet. Again, all of these things matter. These are all areas through the root cause review protocol, my 90-day program, that we identify where are your gaps with nutrition, with lifestyle, with lab work, right? You don't have to do this. I get to do this for you and bring it all together in a beautiful bow. Again, the beauty of working with me. But if you can't break down the food, let's presume you're eating a vast diet, a healthy, whole, vast, diverse diet. Okay. You're eating all the nutrients you should be getting in order to support the thyroid. But maybe the breakdown is you're not breaking it down in the digestive system. You're not utilizing the nutrients. Well, it's not about the thyroid. It's about the digestion. Okay. It's about making sure your body can break it down. So my number one goal is to make sure that your digestive system is optimized. We want to think about moving upstream. Downstream, we have the symptoms, the weight gain, the exhaustion, the hair loss, the brittle nails, the bloated belly, the constipation, or whatever's going on. But you want to swim upstream. The root is at upstream. You want to swim up. You want to think about, but why? But why? But where's that coming from? Okay. Um, it could be the thyroid needs some love. It could be. But at the end of the day, and this is also what I say, I have women coming to me on levothyroxine. I have women coming to me on desiccated thyroid that still feel bleh. Their numbers might look good because they're on these, but their body is still not utilizing nutrients properly. Again, it's because we haven't addressed the whole body. We're only addressing the symptom if you're only given thyroid medications, even if it's pork thyroid, meaning natural thyroid. Okay. Now let's move down to, before we get to the antibodies, I want to show, excuse me. Here we go. T3. Okay. So we talked about TSH. We talked about T4 free. Now I want to talk about T3 free. Okay. So T3, say that 10 times fast. T3 free is your usable, your active thyroid hormone. Okay. Again, all of these markers are in normal, quotes, air quotes, range, but they're not in optimal range. So T3 free, I like to see this between 3 and 3.5. This one's actually in optimal range. It is not in optimal range here. This is a good sign. This means the body is working really hard despite issues to find balance. Okay, that doesn't mean though we're out of the woods here, because this person, like I said, was still dealing with weight gain, exhaustion, hair loss, bloated belly. Okay, again, this is where you have to look at a pattern, the constellation, the why of what's influencing, because these issues, hypothyroidism is not something that happens overnight. It happens over 10 years. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to wait until I get there. Like if I know something's going on in my body, I want to nip it in the bud immediately. And the sooner you catch it, the easier it is to reverse. That doesn't mean you can't get to a certain point and not reverse. It's just going to take more commitment and likely more restriction and more discipline to reverse it, right? So it's easier to do it when you when you don't have to go to such a deep intervention, right? But you can see in the previous result, it was lower. Again, in isolation, I'm not too worried about this number, but it shows me that the thyroid number, the active thyroid number is still humming along, but it is creeping right to that 3.0. Anything below 3.0, that's a red flag for me. Again, 3 to 3.5 right here, but you can look at that lab guide and you can have it. You can have the values in there. Last two, I'll say, is the thyroid antibodies. Okay, so again, your doctor's likely not going to run free T3 and they're likely not going to run thyroid. And the reason for that is it does not change, regardless of these numbers, it's not going to change their approach to treating you with a pill. It's just not. I also have doctors that will tell you if these numbers are irrelevant to how your thyroid is producing hormones, which is bullshit. And I'll tell you why right now. So thyroid antibodies, this is where we switch gears from low thyroid, meaning stress on the thyroid, which could be causing the thyroid to be having some issues producing hormones, right? So we'll see imbalances. That's one branch of the tree. The other branch of the tree could be the immune system. So antibodies are directly related to the body, your system attacking its own tissues. It sees a foreigner and it's launching an attack. It could be your own tissues. In some cases, it could just be the foreign invader, right? Like if you have ever gotten an allergy test, those are our antibodies that show that it's attacking the foreign invader, which is whatever it is, milk, eggs, right? But in this case, these are enzymes or the building blocks that create the enzyme. Again, molecules that your body is producing, your immune system is now attacking. And so again, reference interval is low, it's wide, 0 to 334. Functionally, I don't like seeing these numbers for the TPO specifically between 0 and 2. 0 and 2. And you could tell this person, I don't have a date when this was 2023. 2021, it was 19, 2023, it's 30. So it's slowly creeping up. That is a red flag. Actually, I know for a fact this person in particular, 19, they went to their medical doc. This was when they went with me. This is when they went with their medical doctor for these lab results. Um, their medical doctor never talked to them about this number, didn't even cancel them about it. So it just sucks because in 2021, if they had known that their immune system was, you know, tagging their thyroid, they probably could have avoided a lot of things for numbers of years. And that's the problem. Autoimmune conditions can take up to 3 to 4 years to diagnose. And that's because of the progression of the diseases. I know because I was diagnosed in 2011 with ulcerative colitis, but I had eczema my entire life as a child, and eczema is a deep, deep sign of leaky gut. So I was in the firing squad for UC for years with my issues, and no doctor had never ever decided to look at it from that angle until I was diagnosable, which is really sad. This happens a lot with Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroid, autoimmune low thyroid. So 30. This for me, again, 0 to 2, and then your TGAB, we like to see this between 0 and 1. Okay, when this goes above 1, again, I'm not going to scare anybody on this video, but that's something we want to pay attention to. Again, a moment in time, trends matter more, but this is what's important to be tracking. It's important to be aware so that you can take action. And again, everything's fixable. I love telling my clients this. Everything's fixable. Your body was designed to heal. The problem is, A, you need to find awareness. You need to be aware that's happening. You can't be in denial. You can't put your head under a rock. 2, you got to find the right person to support you, at least educating you and giving you a clear path to begin. That would be me. And so I want to make sure that it's very, very clear that you are working with somebody if you are noticing some of these values that are out of line. So hopefully that gives you a picture. We went over TSH, we went over T4 free, we went over free T3, and we went over TPO antibody and TG antibody. Okay. Again, these are all going to be in the lab guide for you. You can download that. It's free. You can take that to your doctor and make sure that they are running the labs. Also, when you download the lab guide, you will be thrown into an email sequence where I think the first or second email, you will get a letter that you can write to your doctor, like an actual letter of, "Hi, doctor, this is me. I'm working with a functional practitioner. And they advise these tests." And you can I literally wrote you a doctor's note to give you a comprehensive thyroid panel to be asking for. And I can list it here. It's TSH, it's T3 free, T4 free, reverse T3, TPO, TAA, which is that TGAB, methylmalonic acid, vitamin D, and ferritin. Again, you can get these tests run on your own. You don't need a medical doctor to run your labs. You can come through me. I use an independent lab facility that works with LabCorp. There are multiple ways for you to do that with me, by the way. You do not have to get into my full 90-day program to get access to that. I have a separate comprehensive lab intensive offering. If you just want your labs drawn, if you just want me to do and give you some clinical insights to where your body needs the most support, that's a separate offer that I offer as well. All this information are going to be in the video notes below. And so if you do want more support in this area, then I ask you to find me on Instagram and message me. Ask me your questions if you're curious about what support would look like for me with me. You can check the video notes below and see which option works best for you. Like I said, if you have questions, find me on Instagram or email me at my email address listed below. I really hope that this video was very informative, that it allowed you to pull out your lab work and do some sleuthing yourself. But again, if you want me to help you with understanding not just your thyroid, but all your markers, give you the education, put together an effective blueprint that works for your body, that's palatable, that's digestible, that's not overwhelming, and you want me to walk you through each step along the way, the root cause review protocol is the best place for you to start. And I really hope that at the end of the day, this was informative and empowered you to take back your health. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Be sure to like this video if it was something that felt very informative. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I will be doing more of these lab reviews in the future. Take care.